Tonight, guys, on the fly, we have very special guests in the building from the Right Between the Eyes podcast. We got Mr. Nick Caruso and Mr. Rob Myers, and we're going to be doing our not top 10. We're going to take a page out of their book. We're going to do the top 9 favorite Bon Jovi songs, and that'll be tonight. But let's get to the intro, guys.
Hey, this is Todd Howarth from Ace Frehley's Comet, Cheap Trick, Ted Nugent, 707, 4x Fate, and Return of the Comet. Hey, you are listening to On the Fly with Stevie and Warden. Yep, that's what you're listening to, and you're listening to it all night long. And maybe during the day. Hell, I don't know. I'm not there. But take my word for it.
You are listening to On the Fly.
All right, guys, I've got new toys, so I had to use it tonight.
You're going to start producing our show. That's all I'm going to say.
That's pretty cool.
Look,
Good
let me
intro.
tell you this, guys. If you have not listened to Right Between the Eyes podcast, it is a great Kiss podcast. The intros you guys do kill anything that I just did right then.
Well, thank you.
Because you got all the Kiss clips, the little snips of Kiss interviews. I don't know who does it. Is it you, Rob?
Yeah,
It's Rob.
Yeah.
So look, there is nothing I could do right now that could compete with that. You guys do a great job. And the Road to Rosemont series, that was awesome to hear you guys talking about everything leading up to that final show you got to see at the Rosemont Arena, Rosemont Horizon. What is it?
The Allstate Arena.
Yeah.
Yep.
To see the last Kiss show, that was awesome with the whole crew you had there. Guys, I've listened to every episode of Right Between the Eyes podcast. I'm caught up, and you guys need to head on over there and listen to it. These guys do a great job. We're missing Nico tonight. I hate that, but he had to work, so we do have his list.
We do
got his list up there. So first of all, let's go around the horn. Mr. Caruso up there in the right hand corner for the block. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really excited. Happy to be here tonight with you, my guy. And I tell you what, it was hard to narrow down nine Bon Jovi tracks. Rob does this too all the time, but sometimes it's easy because we're doing an album, right? And there's only 11 or 12 songs on the album, so it's not too hard. You throw a couple tracks out, but this, you're talking about over 40 years, a 40-year career of this rock legend, and it was hard, man. I've been thinking about this for like a week. So excited to be here, my guy. Thank you.
And it's like the soundtrack of my youth. I mean,
yes, sir.
I'm a diehard Kiss fan, but let me tell you, when Bon Jovi came along and started and really caught fire, there's so many, and I'll talk a little bit about memories from some of these songs because, man, it's nostalgia. It's everything from back in one of the greatest decades, if not the greatest decades of music in the 80s right then. Down there in the center square, Mr. Rob Myers. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It's you and I have been chatting back and forth for just months, long time, trying to, and tip to the hat to you. It started in podcast wise, and then a friendship had started, and just all your love and support, man. It's great. It's an honor to be here. You got a great show, and now I'm going, we got to get you on our show. What's a good topic?
Hey, I'm ready anytime. And I knew the Vigilante 1939 podcast.
Yeah, cool.
I wore the Star Wars shirt.
That's pretty cool, man.
As much as I'm a Kiss fan, I'm just as much a Star Wars fan. Ben, one of my first memories is waiting in line. I was 4 years old, waiting in line. It was cold. I remember that. And the guy that's now my preacher at my church was ahead of me in line with my dad and my mom and dad, my brother, to see Star Wars at the theater.
That's awesome.
And after that, I was hooked. I mean, I don't know. And my mom and dad had a lot to do with Star Wars. They always supported the Kiss thing. I mean, when I'm walking around the house singing "Put Your Hands in My Pocket, Grab a Rocket" at like 5 years old, and they don't say anything. I mean,
yeah.
But
it's a phase. He'll grow out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Just make sure the horns don't come out of his head and everything, because he's listening to Kiss. But no,
they'll kick you out of school now.
Oh, look, I wore Halloween. I wore every year for like 3 years. I wore the Ace Frehley old Kiss Halloween costume.
That's
and
cool.
I wish I still had that thing. But telling you before and I would know, guys, we're not talking about Kiss tonight, but we're going to talk a little bit. You talk about some of the memorabilia, and one of the things I had. You remember the white plastic toy guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that. I looked it up on eBay, and it's like, I saw the price of it. But I decided to be funny one day, listen to the live too. I said, okay, I'm gonna be like Ace. Took a smoke bomb and put it in there and lit that thing. Yeah. Melted white plastic after that. You talk about somebody sick. I was a dumb kid, that's for sure. But tonight, we're not talking about Kiss. We're talking about another great band from the 80s that is spanned. Actually, is this week as we record. We're recording on January 24th. It's the 40th anniversary of their debut self-titled album, Bon Jovi. And they've got a lot going on in the Bon Jovi world. The Hulu, they've got a documentary coming on Hulu in April. And the thing I'm most excited about that maybe something will happen from Richie Sambora and John Bon Jovi are getting not getting back together, but they're going to be honored at an award ceremony. I'm not sure what that award show was, but they're going to be together, and maybe, just maybe, that'll be the start of something. I think it's time before because they're not getting any younger. I mean, and you can definitely tell they're not getting younger, but it's time for a Bon Jovi reunion, I think. So tonight, 9 favorite Bon Jovi songs for all 4 of us. But first of all, let's start up there. Let's start with Rob this time. How did you get into Bon Jovi?
3 letters. MTV. I mean, I don't know if it's MTV or if it was probably right around the car, probably a mixture of, my dad played a lot of fast pitch softball. So if he wasn't listening to a Tigers ball game, which I was fine with that.
Right.
We would turn the channel over to local pop station. So I'm sure one of the first ones I heard is "You Give Love a Bad Name" or, something like that I can remember and going, oh, hey, that's Bon Jovi. And then once we got cable, I was glued to MTV. I remember my dad saying, we're not going to have this music crap on all the time. When he wasn't home, me and my best friend, we were just glued, waiting for Poison, Winger, Warrant, like all of those bands. But before them, you had like that first wave, and Bon Jovi was in that first wave, and seeing John like fly across the stage, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And they're smiling. Why are they smiling? You don't smile in rock and roll. So yeah, there was a big shift that you couldn't not be a Bon Jovi fan in the 80s if you tried. The people that said they didn't like Bon Jovi, you were like, oh, sure you don't.
I guarantee every one of them knows every word to Living on a Prayer.
Oh yeah.
But you're lucky. Now I don't think I've filled Robin. I know I haven't filled Mr. Nick in. I live in a small rural town in North Carolina. We've got about 90 people in this town, and we never got cable.
Wow.
I would not have been your friend.
No, okay. Look, I was always trying to hit somebody else up in like a town about 5 minutes away. Like, hey man, can you record Headbangers Ball for me tonight?
That was my best friend. He was like, can you tape this? So I would have VHS tapes.
Yes.
And we would meet up at school, and I'm just handing him tapes. This was last week. This was this week,
Yeah. And look, we finally had to get one of those huge satellite dishes that you put in your backyard before DirecTV come along. And then we got MTV. And about that time, they stopped showing music
videos. That's crazy
anymore. But anyway, we've actually moved up into big world. We got streaming now. So yeah, I'm good. But Mr. Caruso, tell us how you got into Bon Jovi.
You know what? I remember the first song, Runaway. I mean, and again, it probably from MTV, probably a lot of the local we had a lot of great rock radio stations here in Chicago. There was Q101, there was The Loop, and that song was played a lot, Runaway.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember the video on MTV. But then it's funny, I don't remember. I was like a little gap. I don't remember the second album at all too much. Like I didn't buy the second album. I don't think there was really. Is that the Fahrenheit album? I know that you talked about it. Yeah, that's a great album. Like when I look back at it now, there's some great tracks on there, but it's almost like I skipped that. And then just like Rob said, I mean, Living on a Prayer, Bad Name, Dead or Alive. I mean, those songs were just everywhere. I mean, and they were. I know rock groups always have long hair, but they were really. I believe they were like the first real band though, where everybody, the hair was extravagant. And it was really, when you talk about the hair metal, even though they're like a pop band, I understand a pop rock band, but that was always my first impression of them. Got to I was always, no matter who I listened to, I always liked the history, and John being from New Jersey, them being from New Jersey, where Frank Sinatra's from, just a lot of stuff. So it's cool because they're 40 years. I feel like I've been with them the whole time, really since the beginning.
So I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into it. I remember my cousin had the 7800 Fahrenheit album, and he put it on, and hearing the first intro of Tokyo Road, hearing
it's a great song,
and then hearing that guitar kick in, I was like, holy crap, who is this? And then he had the debut album. I listened to that and I got hooked. I mean, I immediately went out and bought the cassettes, wore both cassettes out. But then when Slippery hit, I told you, Mr. Crusoe, earlier, when I'm like Zeus, Tom and Zeus from Shout Out Loudcast, Zeus said, I was listening to them before they hit it big. And when Slippery comes out, everybody loves Bon Jovi. And I'm like, no, that's my band. You can't, this is my band. But, and then after that, it just exploded with Slippery and even bigger with New Jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, Bon Jovi had, so many high school dances with Bon Jovi songs and girlfriends that they're like, oh, this is going to be our song and all that. I'm like, okay. But anyway, Bon Jovi was like I said, was like the soundtrack, a big part of the soundtrack of my youth. And, now I'm just hoping we'll have one last hurrah with Richie, and hopefully they'll do it better. They'll do it better than Kiss did. But anyway, so before we get into this, like we talked about, Hulu, the Thank You Goodnight documentary coming out April 26th. Excited about that. Looks like it's going to be everybody's cooperating with it. It's going to be Richie's going to be part of it. And there's no telling what we might see. I'm really excited to see that. The 40th anniversary, like you said, the album re-released with demos. Also, the cassette. Can you believe it?
It's cool.
For $19.98, you can buy a cassette. I bought that cassette for like $9 back then. I wish I still had.
I think I owe BMG money for that still.
Or
Rob,
maybe
you did.
Columbia House.
Rob got 13 for
13 Myers.
Yeah,
13 for a penny. Yeah,
got him for a penny, Rob.
Take the penny on it. Yeah.
As a kid, when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and I was really, my parents, like I said, my mom was a big Elvis fan. My dad liked the Beach Boys and all that stuff. So I was getting into Kiss. And when I saw that ad for like 11 albums for a penny, I put a penny in an envelope and put the order form in there and tried to send it off. The mail lady sent it back. I was like, I wanted 11 albums though. And I eventually had the honor of cheating BMG and Columbia House out of some stuff too. But
I think the statute of limitations is passed.
Exactly.
You guys are okay.
Over now.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
somebody's
it's okay.
grandson at BMG is watching this video and go, those are those two guys we've been looking for.
I'm sure from what Zeus said on Tom and Zeus's show, he did a lot more than I did. He had multiple mailbox set up everywhere around campus when he went to school. So Well, let's get right into it. Our top 9, and we'll start with Mr. Caruso. You can do you and Nico's. What's your number 9?
I'm going to go with Nico first.
Okay.
So Nico picks One Wild Night, and it's appropriate because I'll tell the story a little bit more in detail as we get some songs. But that's when Nico, he was a 6 or 7 year old a boy, and again, I guess it was VH1 or whatever, but the Crush album came out at a time, and It's My Life, and we'll get into that. But that album had a big impact on him. So that's like, on our podcast, Right Between the Eyes, we talk about what was your first kiss, what was our first introduction. So for Nico, it was the Crush album, and One Wild Night has always been a favorite song of his.
Okay.
For me, I go back to Slippery. I go back to a song called Let It Rock. And I love Let It Rock. The thing that I really love about the song, besides it just being just a kick-ass, heavy, hard rock, great song, anthem, is I've always loved the operatic, scary Phantom of the Opera, if you will, David Bryan on the keyboards. Oh. And I've always, I didn't see that tour, so I missed that, but I've always envisioned wishing I was there and them doing it live. I've never seen it live. I've seen them a lot, and I've looked for bootlegs and stuff. I've never able to find what I would call like a real high quality. But to me, one of the greatest things these guys do is they open an album. Yeah, they're one of the and again, we're talking about maybe not the last 4 or 5, but certainly. The one thing about a Bon Jovi album is you couldn't wait to drop the needle on it or put the cassette in, because you knew that first song was just going to rip. It was going to be great, So, but Let It Rock is always a favorite of mine. I love that song.
Yeah, that's and is there for that era? And I mean, I know there wasn't many keyboard players back in the day, but Dave Bryan has to be one of the best keyboard players of that era, or 2 decades there from the 80s and the 90s there, and it's such an important, and listening to some of these, like you said, Rob, you were listening to your playlist today, but listen to some of these songs on your headphones where you hear it a lot better. The keyboards play such a big part of some of these songs.
Yeah.
All right, Rob.
All right, so the keyboard is featured predominantly in this, but Mr. Tico Torres is going to go raku, ga, gu, kako. A little bit of Always from Crossroads.
Oh, sure.
This was one, we talked about it on our show. This song just tore my heart out. We said of all the things that Bon Jovi, like we all want to be rockers and all that stuff, but that song, like ballads, John's going to write this beautiful ballad.
Yeah.
And I had broken up with my high school sweetheart 2 months before this song came on. I was like, John, you just want to shoot me? Was that what we're doing right now? So I remember going, I'm going to send this to her,
make a mixtape.
But I love.
She's going to come running back to me, right, Rob?
Yeah. She's going to know that she messed up.
I'm going to call the radio station and dedicate this song.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. Can you turn it on to 104.7 and just listen really quick?
This is from Rob.
From Rob. This is from Bob.
You couldn't text her. Look, I did dedicate a song one time to a girl, and there was another guy that was in my class. So, because everybody calls me Stevie, and there was a guy in my class too named Steve. And I called. I said, I told the lady, the DJ, I was like, from Stevie, and she said to so and so from Steve, and I'm like, no, oh my gosh, she thinks it's from that guy. So, yeah. I said, I called a friend of hers. I said, you got to tell her that was not him, that was me. I did that. So Always is such a killer ballad. I can't remember what was the name of the album where they redid that. It was
like Love Feels Right. Did they do that on that
one?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They did a slow down version. But I always wondered on that. Maybe you guys, because we were talking a little bit about before we came on air about he blowing his voice out because he doesn't hit those high notes when he redid that. I don't think he can do it. He could do it like that anymore, but still a good version of that. All right. Number 9 for me. I talked about this a little earlier. The song that started my Bon Jovi fandom, that Chinese, Japanese girl singing at the and then that killer guitar riff from Richie come in, Tokyo Road. I just remember that's a song like when I listened to Destroyer from Kiss when I heard Detroit Rock City for the first time. I was hooked on Kiss after seeing the cover and hearing Detroit Rock City. Tokyo Road got me hooked on Bon Jovi. Like I said, I went back and got the debut and 7800, wore that out, and was Slippery come along. It just elevated. But Tokyo Road, just that, the bridge to it where he slows everything down and he starts talking, and then he hits the she knew I didn't have any money, but baby, I knew she would. And then Richie comes back in with it again. It's a killer song. Doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, but Tokyo Road is my number 9.
I don't know what the compilation is. It's just out of my reach, but it was around the Crush album where they did a Japanese best.
It's called Tokyo Road.
Tokyo Road, yes.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten all about that song until I bought that. I'm like, Tokyo Road, they must have, recorded a new song. And as soon as I heard that intro, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Tokyo Road was freaking awesome, dude. And I don't understand how, because I've heard them talk, and they don't mention 7800 a lot. They don't like the production on it. And it's just like the Redheaded Stepchild or their albums.
I think it's their Hotter Than Hell.
Well, yeah, but so many good songs on that album that I wish he would give a little. It's just like Paul crapping on The Elder. I mean, John craps on 7800. Don't do that, because you got fans that love those songs, and you're making us feel stupid for liking the song.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there. You got. These are not on my list, but "Only Lonely" is a great song, and I mean, "In and Out of Love" is a classic too. Those are 2 songs that they're not in my 9, but they're
on the outside.
If I got to go deep to 20 and stuff like that, those songs are going to find their way in there.
If you had to make a double album, that would be there, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so number 8 for you and Nico.
All right, Nico's got "Blaze of Glory." And I will tell you that he likes that because he loves the opening guitar riff on it. And we were lucky to see it live a couple of times, and I think that's kind of what got him really into the song. My number 8 is probably, well, I've got some classics on there, but my number 8 is "Bad Medicine." And when I think of all the Bon Jovi hits, especially at that time, like "Livin'" and "You Give Love a Bad Name," when "Bad Medicine" was kind of the lead for New Jersey.
Yeah.
And that video, that song just stays with me. Like I get tired of "A Bad Name," and I get tired of "Living on a Prayer." Like I really don't listen to those songs a lot. Like it just is what it is. But for some reason, "Bad Medicine," again, the keyboards, bum, 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 the guitar, the vocals, the chorus, it's cheesy, but it's just really good. And it's so infectious to me. "Bad Medicine," it's infectious, and the lyrics and everything. But it's one of those songs where, it's whatever Bon Jovi playlist I make, it's always on there. And it always makes me feel good. Like I never turn it off. Like I say, there's a lot of big Bon Jovi songs. They come on and I skip, but not "Bad Medicine."
I always felt like "Bad Medicine" was like the sister song of "Social Disease" from Slippery.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I always felt like it was around that same kind of theme and that same kind of sound to it as well. But yeah, that may come up again later on. All right, Rob. Number 8.
Now, Nick and Nico would know that I don't necessarily follow the trend. Like my lists, when we're picking songs out,
right.
I'm the one that's coming from left field, and they're like, "Where are you going?" So, mine's gonna deviate quite a bit as
good.
we go through this. But we talked about it on our show. We reviewed this album. We reviewed the Bounce album, and I feel like Bon Jovi, for every album that was kind of like, it's okay, they seem to come back at the right time and have this huge resurgence for a little bit, and they kind of simmer down. But the Bounce album was one of them. And I remember, I think it was the kickoff for the NFL season, and they were playing in Times Square, and they played the title track, Bounce. That has stuck with me since that time. I saw that and I thought, I got to pick this album up. And I love that tune. I know it's not a popular one, but it's one of my
good tune, dude.
But see, you had something you put that with that made you remember that too. Because when you talk about the start of the NFL season, they played it in Times Square. It's always with something that you link it to and makes that song even better. Just like music videos. Hey, MTV, music videos. When you listen to a song on the radio, then when you would see the video, I'm like, I got to go buy that right now. I got to go get that right now. That made the song even better, but not going to happen on MTV these days. So, talk about Blaze of Glory. I remember when that came out. You know, of course,
Young Guns
2 soundtrack.
Yep, Young Guns 2.
John actually had a little cameo in there when he tried to come up out of the little thing they had it. They kept out of prison and he got shot. And that which I thought. And he was red hot at that time, too. I mean, that Young Guns 2 soundtrack has got some good songs on there, too.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does.
You know, Miracle. I love Miracle.
That's a great song.
Yeah, that is a great song. And you had Joey from Friends in the video. Matt LeBlanc was in that video.
That's right.
But it does not look right, him being serious in the whole video.
That's why he wrote that song. Hey, Joey.
So this next song that I got at number 8, I guarantee neither one of you probably or Nico has on your list. And this song was it wasn't released as a single, but it charted. It charted at number 30. This is just how popular Bon Jovi was back at this time. This was in the 80s. It was on actually on a soundtrack to an 80s film with the Fat Boys, Disorderly.
Oh,
Edge of a Broken Heart.
Oh, dude, that's like that would have made it. I love that. And that song was released by, what was the girl group that made it famous?
Vixen did a different. It's not a cover version, but it was the same. It was the same name.
Yeah,
because Richard Marx wrote.
Richard Marx,
yeah, he co-wrote the Vixen song. But this song, I remember, of course, back then you had your little jam boxes or boom boxes or whatever you were listening to, and every radio station had like a countdown, either 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear this, and I'm like, "Who the heck is this?" And then you hear, I said, "That's freaking Bon Jovi. Where is this coming from?" But you know, it was such a great song, and they released it on 100 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong. The box set, double CD edition of Crossroad. It comes out of that, but I just remember it on Disorderlies, and this was written during the Slippery era. Didn't make the Slippery album, but a great song. Edge of a Broken Heart is, to not be released as a single and then chart at number 38. That tells you how hot Bon Jovi was at the time. Because back then, that's really all you had was a single.
I've had a fantasy, and I know that, but I mean, it's too late now. But man, I would have loved to seen them do that song live.
Yes,
at some point. Like I don't know why. I mean, John wrote so many songs, but you're not the only one. I've heard on other podcasts people talk about that song.
Yeah,
and how it's a favorite of them, and it is one of mine too. It was I really was tormented trying to think, do I put it in? Do I not put it in, or whatever? But I've known that song like since it came out, and I can't remember too. I had it back then too, either off that soundtrack or somehow I tracked it down.
Came out like a they probably put it out after it caught fire.
Yeah,
they probably
hit
put
a
it out as
single or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Back then, you had the little cassette singles. I don't know if you guys remember those.
Yep.
I think they probably put it out there. I just recorded it off the radio. I had to sit there with record and pause, sitting there waiting for my songs to come on. Look, last night we recorded an episode. We did our we had ranked all 4 of the original members of Kiss. They're all 10 songs. We made an album out of 10 of that from that list. But we were talking about. I said, I'm just wondering if Amazon's got blank cassette tapes still up there. They do.
And I'm sure they do.
Oh, yeah.
Maxell.
Yeah, they're still there.
And it's TDK, Maxell. And they had them up there. It was like a 5-pack of blank 90-minute cassettes was like $20.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Back in the day, though, I could get them things really cheap. Though.
Yeah, sure.
$20 is a lot now.
Yeah.
But, Edge of a Broken Heart is my number 8.
That's a good one, man.
All right. So number 7 for you and Nico.
Yeah. So oddly enough, me and him both have a song from the same album, which doesn't surprise me, but we didn't even talk. Like he shot his list to me. So he's got Hook Me Up from Bounce.
Okay.
Bounce is a big album for us because while Nico discovered Bon Jovi during the Crush, we didn't see the Crush tour. They had already come and go. So Bounce was the first time that he got a chance to see him, that I had a chance to take him as a youngster. And he loves that song. My song from Bounce is a song called The Distance. And I'm a sucker for the ballad. I love the hard stuff. I love, love to get crazy, the rock stuff. But, Bon Jovi, more than any other band, has written some of the greatest love songs, ballads of all time.
Oh, yeah.
They've probably written more than really anybody, to be honest with you. And The Distance, for me, the first time I heard it, bump, with that, again, going into it, it's so hard. It's so beautifully, it's so melodic, the harmonies. Again, when you talk about Richie being there, and it's just lyrically, it's just a moving song to me. And I loved it from the first time I heard it. And it's like all these songs, it's one of those songs when I hear it, I listen to it all the time. I never turn it off.
Yeah. I like Nico's take on Hook Me Up. We talked about it on our show, which I've got to put that back up. I had to take it down for Spotify reasons.
Right. Yeah.
So I got to re-edit it. But anyway, his take on it, that would make a great short film of the way that it ends, where, the troops or whatever are pinned down and they're calling for help, and it just ends. Yeah.
I got to go back and listen to that when you put that up there.
Yeah.
You talk about, I'm right there with you, Mr. Crusoe. I'm a sucker for a ballad. You're going to find out in a few minutes, I think. Good. How much I'm a sucker for a ballad. All right, Rob, you're number 7.
I just want to tell you guys, have a nice day.
There you go.
I like that song.
Actually, no, I said that wrong. My bad. From the album Have a Nice Day, because I wrote Have a Nice Day. It's something that we talk about. This guy doesn't lip sync. He is the last man standing.
That's a good song, dude. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a great song, man.
Yeah. So I got the album title and then the songs. I wrote Have a Nice Day. So I was torn between Have a Nice Day and Last Man Standing. I heard Last Man Standing on that This Left Feels Right. Mm-hmm. And in the DVD, because I bought that whole box set, John was talking about there's a heavier version that we were thinking about doing, but maybe we'll put it out later. So it actually hit the 100 Million Fans Can't Be Wrong box set on there, and then it went on to Have a Nice Day. But I love that song. I like everything that John was saying about it, that maybe he or this fictional person is the last one that is actually doing the real singing, and we're going to be living in an age, and we're kind of already there, that you go to a show, you may not actually be hearing or seeing what you're actually seeing. So I've always dug that.
I'll tell you what's great about that song. We saw that tour and it opened. It was tremendous.
Oh, man.
It was an incredible opener. We always talk about that, and I mean, it was great. I love that song.
All right. Number 7 for me, Mr. Caruso, you mentioned a little bit earlier. It's Bad Medicine.
There you go.
You know, the video, which was a video unlike anyone. Well, there's two different videos, but the one where they gave the fans, you know, you had Sam Kinison at the start of the video, and you get the fans, the cameras, and they're all over the stage and doing all that. I thought that was pretty cool. But like you said, that beat and an intro song, just like you said, all the intro songs, especially from the debut album on, Lay Your Hands on Me, Bad Medicine, Let It Rock. They're such great intro songs. But Bad Medicine, I'm like you. I'm a sucker for About It, but when I put some of the faster songs in it, Bad Medicine's always going to go on that playlist, and it's always stuck with me. Like I said, feels like it's the sister song to Social Disease too. It feels like they said, okay, this is going to be our Social Disease off this album. And I don't know, and Social Disease came close. It's on the outside looking in for me, because that one was when I heard it for the first time, and you hear the little moaning at the start of it, and I've got it blaring in my room, and my mom comes in and is like, what was that?
What are you watching? What are you watching?
What are you watching in here? I'm not watching. TV's not even on.
I don't buy it.
You know, the great thing about Bad Medicine, too, is having seen them in concert about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 times, that song never disappoints live either. No. It is a crowd pleaser. And what I particularly like about it live is he extends it. They extend it, you know. If they don't throw a little bit of Shout or some other songs in there a little bit, you know, they do a little medley. It's so fun how he doesn't end it. He never ends it one more time. And sometimes he'll do that 2 or 3 times. And you know, you're sitting there and again, I'm never bored when I see that song. It's fun. It's just great. Great.
Okay. All right, we're back around to you and Nico. Number 6.
Number 6, my son. Again, I don't know. We didn't go over his rationale, but I can't argue with him. Blood on Blood. He loves that song. We've seen it. You know, we saw it open on a couple of the tours, and I think that it's a favorite from his lyrically. The bond, friendship, growing up. I think he, you know, he's still got his same set of friends that he went to grade school with, and he's one of the unique things, as Rob knows about my son, he's kind of an old soul for being a young guy, for being a millennial, if you will. He doesn't act like one, so I can't argue with him there. For me, I'm going to go to the Crush album, and I love this song called Just Older. It's a really fun song. I love the melody on it. I love the lyrics on it. And for me, it was you know, they hit so big with that album, with that Crush album coming back. And like, it was so special for me because not only was I a fan and was I taking such joy in the fact that they were relevant again. I mean, they weren't just, it was kind of like U2 with All That You Can't Leave Behind. You know, it was like, I'm a big U2 fan too. And it's almost seemed like 2 of my favorite groups, like they hit, you know, like almost like in the same time. And they really caught the younger generation. It wasn't just like a legacy. They weren't legacy acts at that time. And Just Older was a song that kind of spoke to me. It was kind of John saying, you know, we're not old, we're just older. You know, and I love the part in there when he tells him, if you see the coach, tell him I cut my hair and some stuff like that. So, and again, you know, the chorus, it's just it's a typical infectious Bon Jovi melody it was a very sentimental song for me.
But before we get any further though, I want to get you guys' opinion on this. Bon Jovi was one of the few bands from that 80s era rock bands to make it through the grunge era. I mean, they adapted and got through it and was still just as popular as they were. You know, they took a little time off, but like you said, you reminded me of that when Crush came back out, VH1 and every MTV had It's My Life all
the time.
All the time. Yeah.
And they were everywhere. They were on every award show, every talk show in the middle of the day. Like John was so brilliant in how he marketed how he marketed the band with that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I wouldn't call it a comeback
No.
because really these days was a little bit dip, even though we'll talk albums one day. I love that album.
Yeah.
But that album was a little dip for them in record sales. Touring wise, they were still relevant. Now U2, they're very similar to U2, where U2 had the pop album and they kind of took a dip for them, but they were still able to sell stadiums out.
Yep.
And they, all over
They
Europe.
were still relevant.
So they never really lost relevance. But what crushed it is it got them back on the charts.
Yep.
And it gave them what I call like the second coming.
Yes.
Of Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like All That You Can't Leave
Like
Behind was like the second coming for you two.
How many bands from that era, though, of that music made it?
No, there's not many. They were legacy acts. There's a lot of groups out of you take a group like Journey, right? Journey was one of my favorite groups, right? I love Journey. But let's be honest with each other. Journey never really had any hits after the 80s. None. No. They made a ton of albums. Steve came back. They had When You Love a Woman, but they didn't tour. And then they had all these different singers. A great legacy band, great live act. But you're absolutely right, Steve. I can only really think of those two groups that really hit.
The
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith. I was going to say Aerosmith.
Aerosmith a little bit with Jaded. You're right. They had it, but I don't think they had the run.
Right.
U2 did and Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi and U2 had a little deeper run after Just Push Play, after Jaded and stuff. And I don't want to miss a thing. They didn't really do too much after that.
And both those bands that you mentioned, Bon Jovi and U2, were releasing multiple singles from that album.
Yes.
Where Aerosmith had one, maybe a second one, but it fell off the charts. Bon Jovi was releasing 4 and 5 songs.
Right.
U2.
And I would argue that Bon Jovi even elevated over U2 because the albums that came after Crush, they were able to cross over into that country market a bit.
Yeah.
So brilliantly. And have hit singles. I mean, they had a nice amount, I think, of hit singles in the 2000s, where U2 had really just that one album, the next album, Vertigo, and after that, there's really not much. I like the albums, but Bon Jovi was getting radio play with Who Says You Can't Go Home.
Yeah.
Have a Nice Day had radio play. So Bounce had radio play. So they had a nice streak of like 4 albums there before they kind of dip a little bit and stuff. But listen, that was going to happen. They weren't going to be able to keep riding that sustained success, I don't think.
Yeah.
Before we get to Rob's number 6, I want you guys, you draw attention to one of our new toys down at the bottom. If you look at the ticker down there, if you want to find the Right Between the Eyes podcast, check it out. That's the link right there. Check them out. We'll be putting another link to another podcast that Mr. Caruso, Nico, or Pilot 4 just mentioned. So keep an eye on the ticker down there, guys. We're going to have some stuff down there. This is great for me because I get to play with a lot of stuff while I'm sitting here. So I'm excited about this. All right. Go ahead, Rob. You're number 6.
You mentioned, Nick mentioned this album. I love These Days. The song that really spoke to me, again, I think I was still upset about this girl, was
I know what you're going.
Lie to Me.
Oh,
I love that tune. And Richie and John's harmony through the whole entire Richie's vocal just coming in and out of that song. I listened to it today and I was just like, that is just a beautifully well-written song. It never got released as a single.
Don't know why. They don't want
it should have been, but I love that album. And you talk about an opener with Hey God opening that album. And I think I still have the VHS tape.
Yeah.
But that the VHS tape, I wore that tape out of the These Days show, which was filmed over in London or something like that.
Yeah, Wembley. That's a great
right. Great show. But yeah,
I wish they would put the audio out of that show. I don't know why. Just hit us with some stuff here. I mean, just like it's a great show, man. That you would talk about them playing to a big crowd.
Yeah,
right there at Wembley Stadium. But that's good stuff. Yeah.
And that was the first concert. Well, that was the first tour where they acknowledged Hugh McDonald. Like, okay, he is a member of Bon Jovi now.
Right.
Well, he was playing bass on every album. So
Yeah.
since the first one.
I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, man, me and Mr. Caruso were talking before we went on the air about the harmonies, how important those Richie harmonies were with John, comparing it to like Michael Anthony with Van Halen. It's just, and I love some harmonies. I mean, I'm a big Beach Boys fan. I take after my dad. The harmonies they do on some of the stuff. I mean, and then getting off, and I'll go off on a little tangent like I do, but the Beach Boys did a tribute album to the Beach Boys, and I don't know if you guys are fans of the Eagles or not.
Yeah, I like the Eagles. Yeah,
Timothy B. Schmidt did a version of Caroline No, and to hear the Beach Boys back there doing the harmonies with him, it's on YouTube. I've watched it probably hundreds of times. To hear them get that harmony straight is just magic. And I mean, anytime that harmony is what really makes a song for me. And Richie and John fit so well together. Like I said, I told Rob today, and I told Mr. Caruso before, John and Richie are probably in my top 5, probably top 3 of duos working together like that. Because Richie can like you said, he can pick up John's vocals sometimes when John's not up to par. And Richie does a great job with them. They work well together, but lie to me, I'm glad somebody I left it off. It would be on, like I said, if we did 20, it would be up there. But it's one of my favorites, and these days it's one of my favorite Bon Jovi albums as well. So, number 6, and this is you talked about breaking up with a girl and getting the song done. This one was probably a girl playing the song. To me, it was the mega ballad from New Jersey, I'll Be There For You.
I mean,
these 5 words,
I swear to you. But there's one part of that song, and look, as a kid, you do some stupid things as a kid, and there was a girl I dated, and I forgot Valentine's Day to the last minute. Went over to her house. She had all this stuff for me. I didn't hardly have anything for her. And it was like, and I kept listening to I'll Be There For You. And said, it wasn't Valentine's, but it said, didn't mean to miss your birthday. But I was thinking about, didn't mean to miss Valentine's Day. I mean, but anyway, but I'll Be There For You, man. So many dances in high school, and you picked the right girl. You definitely didn't want to get asked by the wrong girl to dance to this one, but just a great, like you said earlier, Mr. Caruso, he writes such great ballads, and this is one of I got a couple more after this, but I'll Be There For You, just a mega hit for him, and I could No Fatigue. I'll listen to it over and over again. No Fatigue for me here. No.
It's one of the great rock ballads of all time.
Yeah,
I mean that's how. I mean, we can talk about Kiss. Maybe that started it with Beth. Maybe they were the first group to really do a rock ballad. But I tell you what, that I'll Be There For You is an iconic song. It's legendary. It's a song that every group after them was looking to write. They were looking to do their own I'll Be There For You. That's for sure. Yeah. Because they really don't have a ballad until that song, right? Isn't that really their first rock ballad?
They had Silent Night on.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a hit. I'm talking about that just resonated.
Never Say Goodbye.
Never Say Goodbye.
Never Say Goodbye is a great song. And I love Never Say Goodbye. And that's another one. But I'll Be There For You was the one that hit. Was the one that
there's a difference.
It was universal.
There's a difference with Never Say Goodbye to me, because for some reason I've got a lot of fatigue with Never Say Goodbye, and I don't have it with I'll Be There For You. I don't know what the difference is. Never Say Goodbye is a great song. Didn't understand what they were doing in the video, showing the baby pictures and all that stuff. But that's another thing. But it got fatigued with me, because I actually, when I started, I did like the Essentials like a week ago on Apple. I listened to the Essential, and that came on. I was like, okay, it's okay. It's not as good as I remember it being. It's still a great song, but I guess I'm just fatigued with it. But and
Yeah.
there's another one that's not going to be on my list. We'll talk about that is a big hit and it's not on my list because I'm so fatigued with it. But anyway, but I'll be there for you. Such great memories and such just a great power ballad.
It's fantastic. Yep.
All right. So number 5, we're getting to the halfway point here. Number 5 for you and Nico.
All right, number 5. Nico's got this didn't make my list, but I'm not surprised it's on his list. Raise Your Hands. We were lucky to see it live. It is so pleasing live. It's so fun. It's especially fun to see it in Chicago. Rob, it's probably fun to see it in Detroit because from Detroit to Chicago. I mean, it's just it's really it's just one of those great rock songs by John. And live is where it lives, even though I do like the studio track, but my son loves that song. I mean, it's on all of our playlists. My number 5 is it's from Nico that I kind of really discovered this song because somehow in the 90s were a crazy decade for me. I got married in 92 and I kind of fell off from music a little bit. I opened up a nightclub. We started a business early 95. Nico was born in November. I had my first child. And I kind of got our nightclub was a piano bar. We had disco downstairs. I kind of lost my way a little bit with music. I did see the Stones for the first time in 97, and I became a huge Stones fan. I saw them at Soldier Field. Never saw them before. Was never a big Rolling Stone fan. I also got completely sucked and taken away by the Kiss reunion tour of 96. So I wasn't a fan of these days. I don't even remember it coming out. I don't remember hearing it on the radio much, what the singles were, what the hits were. I just was in a different thing. So we're going to fast forward to the Crush album and all these. I started getting into bootlegs and import CD singles to get live tracks and all this. So to make a long story short, there were some Crush CD singles that had some live versions of It's My Life that I wanted to get for my son. I had to send overseas. And oddly enough, there was a live version of Hey God. And I never really listened to it, to be honest with you, but I got the CD single and I gave it to Nico. And we might have made our mix. I had CD mixers. I had all that. And Nico came up to me. He goes, and he was like 8 years old. And he's like, did you ever hear this song called Hey God? He's like, it's one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, no, gentlemen, what can I tell you? And this is a live version from like Johannesburg. And then we've got another live version, another CD single. And it's just, the song is just, it's incredible. John is now like social, right? He steps into the, almost like U2 or something like that. Right now, he's going to sing about, real life. And it's not just about Tommy and Gina and all that stuff, Yeah. And this song is, Richie is incredible. The guitar work on the song is great. I love the tempo of the song, how it speeds up and then slows down. And John is just vocally a monster on this song. The song speaks to me. It's a relevant song. We all ask God, what's going on in the world? Why me? Living paycheck to paycheck. So I can't talk enough about this song. I was going to put it higher, but the other guy will have it a little higher. And then of course from that, I went back to these days, and much like we do on Right Between the Eyes, where Rob has us listen to some of these albums from the 80s that we didn't listen to, I went back to these days and absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah. And
I would love nothing more. I mean, you've got Damned on there. You've got This Ain't a Love Song, the title track these days, While My Guitar Lies Bleeding in Your Arms. I mean, what a great album.
Yes.
I hope and pray someday that they somehow release a live show from that period. That's why when you were talking about Wembley. So, Hey God, these days, just a great period. I'm sorry I missed out on it when it was going on, but I've made up for it since then.
You know, that was on my original list. And normally it's fun on our show when we all have the same song. We've all got it. But I only pulled it because I know that you love that song so much.
You
So
do,
my number 2 was Lie to Me. I'm like, I wanted you to have
That's great. Thank you. You wanted my moment. You didn't want to take it,
I'm not going to stand in your spotlight.
All right. So number 5 for Rob.
Well, 100 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong with this pick. I am also going to take a song from a soundtrack. It's not from The Truman Show. It's from Ed TV, Real Life. I love this song. First time I heard it. And you're getting to that tail end of MTV being able to see videos. I didn't actually, I caught the tail end of it. And it wasn't until I rented the VHS, or I don't know if it was DVD, probably VHS. And it's at the end of it. The first time I got to see the video in its full. And I love that song, and it took me forever to try and track down the soundtrack. I could only remotely hear it on radio. So when that 100 million fans could be wrong, and it's on there in like disc 5, I just played it over and over.
That's a good song.
Lyrically, it's just a well-written song.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So number 5 for me, this is another, you talked about These Days, and this is off These Days. So we're going to throw another These Days on. Great album. And another breakup for the Steve Meister here, another breakup. And then I'm watching MTV, and I'm like, oh crap, listen to this song. And This Ain't a Love Song comes on.
That's a great song, man.
Good tune.
From Richie's guitar intro, the little, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like you said, that whole album, John's vocals are like great. And I mean, and him and Richie worked together on the chorus really well on this. But man, the song just spoke to it. Going out, I mean, this was a breakup of like a 2-year relationship. And then I hear this song, and I'm like, had to go to, because all my record stores, like I said, little town here, the closest place we can get music was a Walmart. And guess who worked at the Walmart? The girl we broke up.
Oh man,
I'm going in there and she's working. I'm buying the Bon Jovi CD, and but man, could the intro and the outro of that that Richie does is so great. But This Ain't a Love Song, just a great written song. That's my number 5.
I wish I could grab my CDs. I've got the UK version CD single of it. I think there's 3 live tracks.
Oh, really?
Like from the Wembley album. I'll grab it here really quick.
I might have those tracks too. I'm just curious to see what's on there, because I have a lot of those CD singles.
Was it just me, or did the video kind of confuse you there too, with the guy, the photographer over in the war? And I'm like,
a little bit.
They could have done a better story on the video here. But
I would agree. I
mean, These Days, man, I started out listening to that, and I was like, okay, it's okay. It's not New Jersey or anything. Then the more I listened to it, I was like, this is a damn good album here. All right, what's he got?
Okay, I'm actually wrong. It's the CD single to Lie to Me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So
what you got?
Something for the Pain, Always, and Keep the Faith were recorded so it's from Wembley.
Wembley, okay. See, they could put that whole show out. They have that show. I mean, I don't know why they don't just.
I thought for sure that it was,
This Ain't a Love Song.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, like I said, Sucker for a Ballad, and that's one of the best ballads they do right there. But all right, now if you look at the bottom of the screen, we've got the Vigilante 1939 podcast link there. This is all about your DC and Star Wars, which you can tell I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. I'm more of a Marvel guy, but I'm catching.
All right, we are too. We love Marvel.
I'm listening to your podcast. I'm catching up on the back episodes of that one too. But guys, go and check them out if you're a fan of any of that stuff. That you'll really enjoy those podcasts. All right, so what are we on now? Number 4 for
number 4. Nico has a fantastic ballad. As we get to these final four, me and him are going to have some that overlap. I'm not sure if this is for me or not, but he has In These Arms. And that'll come up a little later, so I'll get into it. My number 4 is, we talk about it that time in the 80s. You had Slippery When Wet, and then you had New Jersey. And like in those days, 80s, Rolling Stone record store, we used to go at midnight. Mm-hmm. They started that thing to get the album. And when Keep the Faith came out, I mean, I was like floored by it. It's Keep the Faith, the title track from the album. I love the opening bass. This was like incredible that these guys were just on such a roll that their third album in a row of just bangers and album. I mean, I was shocked. I was waiting for a clunker, and I was like, wow, these guys continue to deliver. I mean, I'm not going to talk about Keep the Faith, the actual song. We've all heard it. We all love it, but yeah, it's a classic Bon Jovi story. Everything you could want in a rock song: tone, guitar, drum, beat, everything, pace. It's one of their perfect songs to me. Keep the Faith.
Yeah.
Do you remember the story of them filming the video for Keep the Faith and it got stolen? So they had to redo the whole entire video.
I don't know, Rob. I don't know that. I never
heard that.
I've probably got it on a VHS tape somewhere of MTV, but I remember him saying that they went in to go to production and it was gone. Somebody in their company had stolen it, so they had to go back out, and that's why John was like, screw it, we're just going to shoot it on the street. That there was a whole like production for it, and it was never seen.
Unbelievable time.
I just remember when that album came out and everybody said John cut his hair. And
yeah,
I was like, oh, wow. And that was
had that whole gelled.
He had the whole And I was like, John cut his hair. I can't. All the girls were like, well, he still looks just as good. I'm like, okay. So number 4 for you, Rob.
Now, we say this on our show all the time. We did not talk about the list. We did not see each other's list. From my all-time favorite Bon Jovi album, Keep the Faith, I want to talk about John maybe stepping into that political arena. He's talking about a county that's just praying for rain, dry county.
Yeah.
That is my all-time favorite Bon Jovi song. I almost put it at the top of my list, but I was lucky enough. The first time I saw Bon Jovi was on the Keep the Faith tour. The girl from high school, we were still dating at that point. And they played the song, and I was just like, I can't believe I'm hearing Dry County live. And it was just the highlight of the show. But yeah, Dry County.
So we haven't had the, what do you guys call it when you get to 3? The trifecta?
Trifecta.
Yeah, we haven't had that. I don't know if we'll have it tonight. I had to mention that because I'm a big fan of when you guys get one.
Oh, when we all hit it? Yeah. It happens a couple times.
Yeah. So my number 4 is from 7800 Fahrenheit. Probably the best Bon Jovi video they ever did. Because this left me, it was filmed like a movie. And left me wanting to know, okay, what the heck is this about? I honestly thought it was going to be a movie. And I was like, okay, I got to see more. And if there, John, Richie, whoever, if there's more out there of it, I want to see you could have made a movie about this. And it would have probably been up there like a cult favorite, like Kiss Meets the Phantom. Only Lonely.
Really? Wow.
Love it, dude. I love that song.
The freaking story just drew me in with the guy, when John goes up there, I guess it's his manager, and he said, you sold us out. And then I don't understand what the guy that looks like he looks like Adam Sandler's best friend on The Wedding Singer, the limo driver that's up there beating on the car. And I don't know what the deal is with that girl, but it kind of looks bad when every time they go out, John's the only one with a girl, and the rest of them are just following behind him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, dude. Richie can pull something. I don't know if Alec can, but Richie can, and Dave probably could too. And Dave being the tough guy out there, putting the guy up against Dave before he had the long hair. I'm sorry, he's better with the long hair than the perm. And he's got the guy up there. And the guy said, all right, I'll tell you. and man, I was sucked in. And this song is a great song too. Richie does a great guitar solo in the middle.
It's a good song.
I mean, Only Lonely for me is number 4. And guys, I'm telling you, if you're listening out there, John, and I know you probably are, if you got any more video of that, I'd love to see that made out of a movie out of that. That was so great.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs, Only Lonely. I brought it up earlier. That's a favorite of mine, man.
Did. I was like, because when you said it, I was like, oh, he's going to say it. So but I've got it up a little bit higher. Number 3 for you and Nico.
All right, so number 3, we're not going to elaborate. Nico's got Hey God.
Okay.
Yep.
My number 3 is my favorite ballad that they do, In These Arms.
Yeah.
I love that song. I love all their ballads, but again, when that album came out and I loved every song on it, it just happened to hit me at that time. I never thought I would see it live, and I was lucky to I think it was 2008. And then I saw it again. They did it as an encore. It's just a beautiful song lyrically. It's very simple. John, it's not like it's profound or anything like that. But again, I love the piano, the keyboards, the guitar, and John's just in his element with this song. So In These Arms, we could do a top 10 of his ballads, but for me, it's my favorite Bon Jovi ballad.
Yeah, we definitely could do a top 10 ballads for sure.
Yeah.
In These Arms did make my list, but like I said, if we were doing 20, it would be there.
Yep.
It would definitely be there. All right, Rob.
I had a really hard time trying to not double up the same album. I probably had like 9 songs from Keep the Faith alone.
Right.
I can't.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
No.
But so I hinted at this on our show that's coming out this coming Thursday at the time we're recording this, that this is the only song to not feature Richie on it. There was a show that my wife and I were watching called This Is Us when it was on TV, and I thought this song should have been a theme song or part of it. I think it just works really well. And as I was doing my list, I swear to you, it came on the Lowe's radio, and it's from This House Is Not For Sale, Roller Coaster.
Yeah, it's a good song.
I love that song. We Don't Run, I think, is on the bonus. I almost put that on there, but as I was trying to think of like, oh, am I going to put something new on there? It came on the radio, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to have to.
Didn't you talk about that in y'all's Bon Jovi episode?
Yeah.
I remember you talking about being in Lowe's and hearing it come on.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just lyrically, that's one of those where I was like, from that album, I go, that seems like I'm not saying classic, but that's felt more Bon Jovi, where I was going, okay, on that album, John, you do more of that, and then the album does what it does. But yeah. That song.
Okay, so number 3 for me, and probably a little fatigued with it, but I guess this one is not as bad because you hear it played at like every major sports stadium at one time or another. I'm a big East Carolina fan. If you go to a football game at ECU, sometime during that game, they're going to play "Living on a Prayer," and then they're going to cut it off at the chorus, and the crowd just takes over. The crowd takes over, but "Living on a Prayer." You talked earlier, Rob, about watching on MTV and seeing John fly over the crowd in the video. That video made that song so much better. It's a great song, but like I said, if you got a great video, that makes the song even better. Because I'm thinking about what happened in the video during that part of the song. But "Living on a Prayer," I guess that was the first time I actually got to see what a talk box was about with Richie. You know, I'd heard my mom and dad had the Frampton Comes Alive.
I was just going to say, did you have Frampton Comes Alive?
We had
came with boxes of ties.
Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
That was the first time I'd seen one in action. And I was like, what? That's what that thing is. Okay, that's what Peter Frampton was doing
Yeah.
Do you
I have a
feel
garden
like
hose
you
that
do?
can do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm old enough to remember when Frampton Comes Alive was big on the radio, man. It was playing all
Hey,
the
let me
time.
tell you this. I'll tell
All
you
the
a story.
time.
We're going to get off subject. Peter Frampton. As a kid, and this tells you, I listened to Frampton Comes Alive all the time.
Yeah.
What was that song? It was called Something's Burning. Something's Happening. Something's
happening.
Yeah, but we had a town. There was a bigger town that had like all the department stores. We went into this department store, and I'm like 6 years old. I was like begging my mom and dad to buy Peter Frampton, I'm in You, the album.
Sure.
And they got it for me. I played the heck out. I loved some Peter Frampton back then. But yeah, that seeing the talk box with Richie, that was really cool. That video was just a monumental video for Bon Jovi.
And I mean, let's face it, that song is what is it? And I mean, I think it's higher than top 10. It might be top 5 of one of the most iconic rock songs of all time.
Yes, and it's a rock anthem.
I know Every Breath You Take, I think just surpassed it as the biggest song. However they determine this stuff, I don't think. But I mean, Living on a Prayer has to be there too. It has to be like somewhere, in the top 5.
And that's one of those times that it's the only video director that I know the name, Wayne Isham. He directed all of the iconic Bon Jovi videos that you know and love. And when they came out with Crush, they went back to Wayne Isham to do music videos for that. So
that's interesting.
And that was just when they were all over the radio. I mean, as a kid, and we'll get to another song in just a minute that came off that, but and I'll get more into that then. But all right, we're getting down to the last two.
Here we go.
Let's go with you and Nico's.
All right, so Nico picks this song because if he got indoctrinated with "It's My Life" as a 6-year-old, he's now about 8, and the new album's coming out, Bounce, and he was all ready for it. Now Bon Jovi was his band, and the first single that comes out is Every Day. And that I talk about voice and that was his thing. That'll is you'll eventually meet him and you talk to him. He'll tell you like how I Stole Your Love from Kiss, because that was like the first.
I remember, yeah.
Right. So Every Day was his song, man. It came. He was elated. He couldn't wait for the album, but that song is one of those. Like I met the band, I listened to them. I didn't get that album when it came out, but now I'm at the store. I'm going to get this album the first day it comes out, and the first single. And again, John marketed himself great. They were everywhere. Times Square, Rob. They were everywhere. New Year's Eve, Easter, Halloween. I mean, they were on every show possible. So he's got Every Day. My number 2 to me. Could have been a number 1, but this song to me, I have like a song like Unchained is my favorite Van Halen song. It just gets you, man. Like it just grips me and makes me feel like different than who I am. It makes me feel like powerful. Lay Your Hands on Me is to me like I just can't explain it to you, man. It's like the greatest. Like if I ever had a cover band, if I ever did that, I don't give a shit who, whatever. I would always open to that song, and I would do it just like they do it, and I would rip through it. It just makes me feel alive. We're lucky, we saw Richie do it. We've seen him do it a couple of times in the middle of the show. But I'm just sad I never got to see it open the show, like just, and like just bang it out, man. Lay Your Hands on Me is like that rock opera, just what they were so good at. Like they were so legendary, these guys, how they were able to construct that song and put it and know exactly what they were going to do with it, how it was going to start the album out. I can't talk. It's probably number 1A for me, but you'll see when I pick my number 1 why it's my number 1. But man, I can never get enough of Lay Your Hands on Me. And I tried, I must have so many bootleg live versions of it. And I'm always trying to find, it's like the, what do you call that, Rob? Chasing the Dragon, like
Chasing the Dragon.
Trying to catch like maybe the perfect live version of it, Damn, I love that song. It just makes me want to run through a wall. Lay Your Hands makes me want to just go crazy. I love it, man. I love it.
I got you. That's a great song too. All right, number 2, Rob.
I want to read this.
Please.
They say that you got to be able to free your body. You got to free your mind.
Oh, man.
So come on. Check this out. I kid you not.
Is that yours, dude? No, that's why we love each other, Rob. See that? That's why
I friggin' love this song.
Right, Rob?
Oh my gosh.
It's so good, man.
When I saw him in 92, it was in the middle set. And I'm like,
yeah, right. It was in the middle. Right.
You play Your Hands on Me. So Tico does his drum solo, and then you start hearing go. And then David's doing his guitar solo, and you're like, oh, it's just a guitar solo, drum solo. And then John comes out. He lifts up from the center stage, and I'm like, oh, they're doing the song. It was this close to be my number 1. Everything that you said, just copy and paste what Nick said. Fan-friggin-tastic song. So if you go back, rewind the video, and watch me watch you as you say, Lay Your Hands on Me. I'm trying to not give it away.
Give it away. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like if he came to me, John, if John came to me and he says, "I just one song that I could play for you," that would be the song for me.
Yes.
Oh wow,
because it's nice and long too.
Absolutely, you're gonna get your money's worth, right, Rob? Yeah,
right.
So the pressure's on for me because it could be 3. But
don't ruin this for us, Gene. No, I'm
kidding. Sorry, I'm gonna ruin it. But I'm gonna stick with Slippery, and it's not what you think, because the other song I'm kind of fatigued with, or really fatigued with, because I've heard it 100,000 times. But this one was the first single off Slippery. You Give Love a Bad Name. When they come out and start just say shot through the heart, you're to blame. And then that guitar kicks in, and oh man, that video with them on stage, and you see Richie, and Richie's just like, holy crap, look at these girls out here in the audience right here. And he's just like looking, but man, what a great song. You Give Love a Bad Name, and it's all over radio. They skyrocket after that. I mean, that's when I said, this was my band, and you guys can't come in and take my band away. But You Give Love a Bad Name. And no, Wanted Dead or Alive is not on my list. It's Fatigue with me. I've heard it thousands of times. The football team, I coach at a local high school, and for a while there, Wanted Dead or Alive was on the the pregame playlist that played in the stadium, and I'm like, I can't deal with this anymore. I got to take this out of the playlist. And the song's still good, but I just heard it till I'm sick of it. But You Give Love is my number 2.
It's iconic.
You think about the run they had with Slippery in New Jersey. New Jersey is can you find a bad song with New Jersey? I was listening to Love for Sale today. That came on when I was, and I just laughed because they're having so much fun in there with that. And then song like Wild as the Wind. And then you talked about Blood on Blood earlier. There's so many great songs off New Jersey. But we'll get into one more great song in just a minute with me. But You Give Love is my number 2.
That's a good one.
All right. Moment of truth.
The 9.
Drum roll.
9. All right. So the number 1, and again, I did not plan this with my son. He shot his list to me. I had already had mine, and I shot it back to him. But we both have our favorite number 1 Bon Jovi song. So for him, it's because it's the song he discovered. For me, it was a validation it was me being proud that my son liked music I liked. For me, it was the validation that they were back, that they were bigger than ever. They were reaching a whole nother audience. They transcended generations. And John just happens to include the person who got me interested in music in the first place, Mr. Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
He does a little tribute to him in there, like Frankie said, I did it my way. It's my life. That song is very sentimental. It'll always be my song with my son. And, we got to see it so many times live. And it's played ad nauseum. It's overkill. It's all those things, but it means more to me than a lot of the stuff from the 80s. And that's why for me, because of my son, maybe if I didn't have kids and I didn't have a son, I would have, but that song really, and then when I hear John tell the story, how Richie was almost telling him, why are you going to put that lyric in there? He's like, nobody knows who's Frank, who are you talking about?
Yeah.
He says, Richie, it's Frank Sinatra. He goes, I get it, John, but nobody's going to know it. Man, I mean, John, again, head of his corporation, the boss of the band or whatever, he certainly knows what he's doing 99% of the time. So It's My Life is like we talk about. It's kind of like why we're still here talking about Bon Jovi tonight, because it brought them, it gave them that second lease on the music industry and completely validated the greatness of that band.
It was the rebirth of Bon Jovi, is what you said. And how in the world he thought nobody was going to know. Frankie said he, like Frankie,
I did it my way.
Right. I mean, unless you just don't know anything about music, you're going to know Frank Sinatra saying My Way.
Right.
I mean, come on, dude. All right. So,
Rob, here we
go.
I love the Crush album. The number one spot was really, really hard for me. And originally, when I did this at work, the first one I wrote down was It's My Life. But I think not that I was fatigued with it, but there was another one that was just kind of gnawing at me. And speaking from a movie, I had heard the song on Slippery, but it just didn't click with me. And then I'm watching Spaceballs.
Oh, yeah. I said that earlier.
Nico had picked it. Raise Your Hands. I love the tune. I was so lucky I got to see it live.
Yeah.
Only saw Bon Jovi live once. I had a couple opportunities that just didn't work out. But a lot of my favorite songs got, at the time in 92, were all present. Because like you said, it was their fourth album at the time. But Raise Your Hands, just a big one. Big one.
It's a great song, man. It is a feel-good tune. I mean, it's infectious.
How did that not? Didn't get released as a single, did it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think it did. How did that not get released as a single, though?
I don't recall hearing it on the radio here in Chicago.
No, it wasn't. But I remember just like you said, Spaceballs, hearing it on Spaceballs. And I was like, that's Bon Jovi playing on Spaceballs. But great song, as it really is. Number one. All
right, here we go. Mr. Steve.
And probably my favorite Bon Jovi video of all time. Just because you get to see back in the studio, which I want to talk a little bit about that too. Mm-hmm. It's in black and white, like all the New Jersey videos were. But it's Born to Be My Baby.
It's a great song.
The way it starts off, when you get the isolated guitar, the isolated vocals, and then the isolated drums and bass, and then they're sitting there, they're going like, let's do it again, and they hit it. But Richie's guitar, when he does the isolated guitar and he's tearing into it, I mean, and you don't really hear it like that until he does the isolated, where you don't hear how he's tearing into it. But Born to Be My Baby, the chorus, the gang vocals they do, it's just an awesome song, and the video made it that much better for me. And that right there made me want to be Richie Sambora back in the 80s, because it's so cool with the long hair. He had the shades on in the studio, and he's just ripping into that guitar. Just like me and Mr. Caruso were talking a little earlier before we went on air. What do you think? What would have happened if Richie had ended up getting the guitarist job with Kiss. You know, he auditioned for it.
I don't know, man. I think that it. I don't know that he would have made Kiss. That Kiss would have been any bigger or anything like that. Even though he's great,
I don't
think the collaboration.
No.
Him and Paul too seem like they would probably
butthead
not get along because Richie's a good-looking dude. You know,
he wouldn't like that.
You know, he would take some of that swagger away from Paul. I don't see that. What I love that song never disappoints live. That is an absolute crowd pleaser. As a lot of them are. I'm not saying they're not, but especially I love when it goes, my heart beats like a drum. I mean, with Tico, it's just you feel that song. But I'm sure glad that Richie did not get the Kiss job, Rob.
Oh,
I'm the same way because I don't think we would not have the Bon Jovi that we've just been talking about for the last hour.
It wouldn't be the same because he had a lot to do with that success of Bon Jovi. Here's my question though. Okay, we always hear, you know, Hugh McDonald did the bass playing on all the studio albums.
Yes.
The video though, Alex in there in the studio. I mean, did they? I guess they had to set it up that way. So,
yeah. So
I never understood. Okay, here's my thing. I'm not a guitarist, musician, or anything. Never understood. I mean, I know there's a difference between playing live and playing in the studio. If he can play it live, why in the world didn't they think they trust him enough to play it in the studio? What's the story there?
Well, Rob, I'm going to throw this at you because you're the musician here.
Yeah.
Was he playing it live or was Hugh backstage playing? I don't know. Like I mean, Alex had the look, right? He was a good looking dude. He had the dark hair. He was from them. I mean, I saw them with Alex live, I think twice, but I am not like a guy that breaks down the musicianship. You know, most of the time I was inebriated and I was just there to party. And I don't have the nuance of a Rob Myers and some of these people that know when a bum note's being played and stuff. I'm just there to have a good time. What do you think, Rob?
I think there's a lot of, now you're talking in the early days of, it's not that it couldn't
Alex
be done.
toured with them through the 90s, right?
Yeah, through the 90s. When I saw him in 92, Alex was definitely on stage. It's a little more forgiving hearing something live rather than something that's going to be a physical product that is going to live on forever. And if you can't play with the click track, or even if they weren't using the click track and you don't have the right tone, or maybe you're not showing up to the studio like an Ace Frehley or something like that.
It's got a card game, man.
Yeah, it's got a card game he was going to. So I don't. That's interesting because Bon Jovi, unlike Kiss, has always kept things in-house. They didn't talk about what was going on, and it only started leaking in probably the last 15, 20 years or whatever. Maybe it's probably longer than that. But I really think it was probably due to his skill or lack thereof to be able to replicate parts. It probably came down to, you want to have somebody else do it. John and Richie were probably listening to the control room and we're going, nah, it's not right. So, and again, if he can't nail it in the studio, but you're going out live in front of 30,000 fans and you can patch things in with keyboard, you got David there with multiple keyboards being able to patch stuff in. Maybe that's just what they were doing. So
one thing I heard of just on a sidebar, Rob, I listened to the Dave and Dave Unchained podcast of Van Halen, and I feel bad I can't think of the author that wrote the David Lee Roth book, but they started going down this little rabbit hole of where even in the 80s and 90s where, Van Halen might have had a keyboard guy underneath the stage, and they talk about Aerosmith having another guitar guy in the back and a keyboard guy. All these guys signed these NDA, these non-disclosure agreements. So I don't know,
you could have been playing.
We talk about tracks now and everything like that, like it's a new thing, like it's all these people are doing it, but I wouldn't be surprised. They talked about you too have an extra sound. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this stuff was going on even back in the 80s where there was somebody. I think about that gig, how you're backstage, you're underneath the stage and you're playing and
even
I don't know,
Kiss, Gary Corbett and Derek Sheridan on a live 3. were off screen. And
See?
in an interview with Derek saying he's looking at the back of a backdrop. He can have eyesight with the band, but you know, he's never on stage.
Just like Gary Corbett, what he played like on the Crazy Night stuff, but on the Reason to Live video, Bruce is playing keyboards.
Yeah.
So I've always watched. I was like, Bruce played keyboards, but that's always, since that came out with Alec about how, you know, when he got, I guess, kicked out of the band and all that stuff. I was like, well, now that I watched the video and they've got him in there, I guess they just set it up that way, let him play for that video. But yeah, I'm like, I think Stryper actually did it with Timothy Gaines. Timothy Gaines didn't play on the studio albums. He just played live. But I guess I'm just like, if they're not good enough to play that, why do you even have them in there? I guess the look back there today with Alec, I don't know what Hugh looked like back then, but the look with Alec was probably it. I don't know. It's just that's the one thing that bothered me about Bon Jovi all these years. But
yeah, I mean, this author was talking about how David Lee Roth would say some musicians can't play live, but they can't play in the studio. So
right.
I don't know. They say Dave was a real stickler for that. He was really, a lot of people look at David Lee Roth like he's goofy or whatever, but they say he was meticulous with, and look at the band he had with Billy Sheehan and Stevie Vai. And
Greg Bissonette.
I mean, you want to talk about a guy that put together a powerhouse band, but it's intriguing, as we get older. Like I said, I go see groups live. I've seen everybody, and I've never really critiqued the performance. I pretty much always enjoy who I'm going to see. Same. I got to be honest with you. I can't recall really going to see anybody and being disappointed. The Kiss farewell tour was disappointing. Not the last one, the original one. I remember by that time it was kind of spent. But I had already seen them like 11 or 12 times during that whole Psycho Circus and all that, and you could tell at the end there they were tired and they weren't playing very well. But Bon Jovi, up until the last show I saw, even when Richie left the show before that, they were firing on all cylinders. They're a professional band. I mean, they're there to play music and they're there to entertain. This House Is Not For Sale tour, unfortunately, age is creeping in, and John, it was the first time me and Nico were just like, wow, and that was 7 years ago, 8 years ago. He was pretty spent. We didn't go see the last tour they played. Number one, we didn't like the album, but I told him I'm not going to spend $200 because if you're going to see Bon Jovi in Chicago and you want decent seats, you're going to pay $250 or $300 a seat, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to spend the money. We'll do it this time. If it's the last one, we're going to have to go. We're going to have to go.
I wonder if they'll come out and say, do you guys feel like this next tour might be it for them?
I do.
I
think this is it. I really do. I think John's had some issues that are not public.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because he was about as good looking and powerful of a rock star there was. He seems to have aged a little bit here, like we all do, but John, a little bit more. And I'll tell you what, I used to love going to see John. The bravado of him on stage was second to none. We talk about Paul Stanley and stuff, but John would come out there and he'd be like, "You're not seeing a boy band tonight. You're seeing the greatest band in the world right now." Like he was very arrogant on stage, but he could get away with it because he was also very endearing and very thankful of the crowd and just played to everybody. John was even, I've seen Springsteen too. Springsteen does it in a different way, but John was downright arrogant on stage a lot, but not to where you got offended.
Right.
You almost were like, yeah, dude, you are, man. You are maybe the greatest rock guy right now playing and doing it, and I mean, he works the crowd about as good as anybody. He moved as good as anybody, but those movements have been limited, the last couple of tours. It's just age creeps in, we're like Jagger's still crazy, right? You see Mick Jagger and he's still out there jumping.
He's still kicking his leg up over his head.
Years old. He's still running around the stage, jumping like crazy. You're tired watching him. You're like, geez, you know.
He's 61 years old now. So after 40 plus years of doing all this singing as much as he has, you know, just like Paul, after 50 years of all that singing and putting that voice out there like he has, it's going to catch up with you sometime. And I think it's caught up with both of those guys now. All right. Any honorable mentions we want to put out there?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to throw a couple. Nico's got a couple. And then let me just see real quicker. I apologize. I got off the screen. You're good. So Nico had honorable mentions, Bad Medicine, When We Were Beautiful, and Dry County. Rob.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine were, there's a song on Slippery When Wet that I absolutely love. They've never played live. It's called Without Love.
Yes.
I love that song. I don't know if you guys know that song or not.
I do, very well.
You got to be a Bon Jovi fan to like it. I mean, to know that. I also love the song we talk about ballads. I love A Whole Lot of Leaving. I love that song from Lost Highway. And I had Edge of a Broken Heart. I didn't have I should have put it in the top 9, you know, because it was going to be my sleeper that nobody knew. But you had it. So, you know what I mean? I was going to try to stump the crowd like a Rob Myers does all the time, but I weaseled out and said, no, I'm going to just stick with my 9.
Mine would have been, I mean, I love the song Open All Night from Bounce.
No,
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm so kidding. So there was my original list that I was working off of.
What do you got, about 25 songs there?
Yeah, about 25 songs. Every Day was one that was so close. Look at his list. My Guitar Lies Bleeding in My Arms.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
Another one, it's a sleeper on the Keep the Faith album, I Want You. I think it's a great song towards the tail end of the album. So those were mine in the mix.
What you got, Steve?
Okay, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Wild as the Wind.
Yeah, that's a good song, man. Yeah.
And then kind of like the sister song to Lie to Me These Days. It's Hard Letting You Go.
That's a good tune. Good tune.
Yeah. Let me see. What else we got up here? Living in Sin was always
that's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I had Always, like you talked. And one ballad that we didn't talk about tonight of Keep the Faith, Bed of Roses.
Bed of Roses. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's
man. Yeah. That was such a great ballad. The lyrics of that, while some marching band heeds its own beat in my head while we're talking, and then he's talking about the now I'm drawing a blank on the barkeeper with the
he's giving me the eye.
Yeah, but I laughed so hard I think I'd die.
I think he was drunk. He said he was hungover.
Yeah,
he was hungover when he wrote that song. If you ever hear the story,
yeah,
I
think he was feeling guilty but the wife. He was in a hotel room, and there's 2 other songs I just got to throw in real quick. Is I Love Damned from
These Days.
And what was the other one? Oh God, I had another one. That's okay. Oh, Homebound Train.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that song, man. I love that song. I've always loved that song too, man.
I put on Twitter, it's been a couple years ago. It was like you put this album, one guy puts an album and you put another album from the 80s up against each other. And I put New Jersey up there. And there was a few of the guys up there like, really? New Jersey? Really? I said, well, I'm not going to put Wasp up here. I mean, I'm going to put Bon Jovi, New Jersey. I'm going to put something I think would win. I mean, New Jersey is like.
New Jersey is a juggernaut of an album.
Yes.
Start to finish.
You look at Lay Your Hands on Me, Bad Medicine, Born to Be My Baby, Living in Sin, Blood on Blood, Homebound Train, Wild as the Wind, Ride Cowboy Ride, which, Stick to Your Guns, which I think is great. I'll Be There For You, 99 in the Shade, and Love for Sale. I mean, there's no skips there.
Listen, that's about as good as it gets, man. And that run, actually, we can include These Days too. That run of 4 albums together. And actually, you could count Crush because those were, I mean, they really had a nice run of them, I mean, seriously, I know, I understand, like, maybe these days wasn't quite the sales, and it dipped a little bit from the previous ones as far as platinum status is concerned, but they had a pretty good run up until, my opinion, I even like The Circle, man. I don't think I had songs from The Circle too, like Happy Now, and
Happy
I mean
Now, yeah.
there's some really good songs from this. When We Were Beautiful was a good song. There's some good songs from that Circle. You know, after The Circle, it gets a little spotty for me.
Yeah.
As far as sales for these days, compared to the last album, I mean, Keep the Faith, those two albums came out during grunge times.
Yeah.
And people comparing Keep the Faith sales and these days sales to New Jersey sales, it's totally unfair. I
Completely.
mean, yeah, it's a different era. I mean,
Right.
you're not gonna see Bon Jovi. They did enough to keep themselves relevant and keep themselves out there and got through that grunge that like a lot of bands didn't. Like we talked about earlier, a lot of bands didn't make it through there, but Bon Jovi made it through there and kept right on going. So
I agree.
Yep.
All right, you guys, tell us about Right Between the Eyes, where we can find you guys, and how often we can look forward to a episode of Right Between the Eyes.
Typically, we're a bi-weekly podcast. Sometimes it's a once a month, but we try to keep it twice a month. That it floats, maybe the first of the month and the fourth, or the third and the fourth, but twice a month. We're on all the social medias, but primarily on Twitter or X at RBTE Podcast, Facebook at facebook.com/Right Between the Eyes Podcast. We are on YouTube as well, and starting this year, I'm going to put every single episode on YouTube. Sometimes it'll be a full video, but you'll definitely always be able to hear. And in most cases, you'll get video footage with it as well. We're on Instagram. And this coming Thursday, tomorrow, the time that we're actually recording this, is our new album. We talk about the new era, and more specifically, the New York concert, Madison Square Garden, the pay-per-view. So that'll be out on both audio and video. So anywhere that you can stream audio podcasts. If not, you can go to Simplecast is where our podcast is located.
Right Between the Eyes podcast.
And then we're going to go from 40 to 50, right, Rob? We're going to
yeah.
We're going to be celebrating a 50th anniversary. So
I got you.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Caruso, talk about your Vigilante night.
Yeah, at Vigilante 1939 that I do with my son Nico and my other adopted son, Mr. Nick Zednick, who they went to school together. They're friends, and we talk about a lot about DC, Marvel, Star Wars. We too were a weekly podcast, but what we're trying to do now too is it's more likely every other week now at this point in time, just because of content. And I think I like to, the great thing about this music stuff I love right now. This is really in my blood.
Yes, sir.
The other genre we talk about right now, going through some changes. There's some little lulls, I would say, as far as the comic book fandom movies are going and stuff. But I always love doing that with those guys. So we try to be consistent. But music right now is where I feel strong. Music is my first love. It really is my first hobby.
I just want to tell you, I think it's freaking awesome that you and Nico do what you do together. You got that bond. Music has been your bond, and from the first time I listened to it, I was like, "This is freaking awesome that you three are together."
Thank you. Yeah,
with the you hear 3 generations of Kiss fans, and to hear you two story and how close you are going to all the concerts together, that's freaking awesome.
It's a great dynamic with Rob and Nico. Rob kind of in the middle. It's pretty cool to get all the different dynamics of it. And but if it wasn't for the comic book stuff, we never would have met Mr. Rob Myers. So
through a comic book
him
podcast.
And my son were flirting with each other or something like that. So hey, I don't care.
We're supposed to be talking about Batman, and I'm like, hey, I see you wearing a Kiss
They
t-shirt.
start talking about Kiss,
How does Kiss always get people together?
Isn't that right?
Kiss always gets people together, because
it's true.
Without Kiss, I wouldn't have met you two guys. It's awesome to have you guys. We've been working on this for a while. I'm so glad we got to get you guys on and talk about one of our favorite bands, Bon Jovi. Can't thank you guys enough for coming on.
It was a blast. Listen to me. I had a ball tonight.
Yeah.
It was a thrill. It just really to talk about this with fellow friends, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, anytime. And guys, you got an open invitation anytime you want to come
you'll
on.
Be
Rob.
you too, Rob. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Be sure to check us out. YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok. Actually, we're doing a little bit of TikTok now. We've actually put some little I've actually started putting some clips, some movie clips up there of I did a little Ace Ventura this week, some of my favorite clips from Ace Ventura. So you guys be sure to check us out on TikTok, and we'll have some clips from. I'm actually working like Rob is to get some of the clips from each show on TikTok now. So most of our shows are already on YouTube, but we'll get it on TikTok a little bit. But anyway, guys, be sure to check out Right Between the Eyes podcast. We'll have all the links that you need to find them on X, Facebook, everywhere in the episode description. Be sure to check out Vigilante 1939. We'll have that link in there too. Mr. Caruso, Rob, thank you guys so much. Again, it's been a blast. And guys, we'll see you next time on The Fly.